Welcome to Seeds of Victory Children's Church. Today, we're gonna talk about the Bible, God's Word, and how it's God's library. It's a book with many books inside. Well, let's go.
A library is a place where you can go and find a lot of books about all kinds of topics. I've been to a library before with my school. We have a library at our house. I'm not really sure how many books we have, but there are plenty. Books can be a good thing if they teach you about history or help you learn other things.
Well, the Bible is like a mini library. It has 66 books, and it's broken up into groups called divisions. And the first division is called the Law, or the Pentateuch. Can you say Pentateuch?
Pentateuch.
Great job.
Can you say Pentateuch? Pentateuch. Awesome.
Hey boys and girls, the second division is called history. Now what is history? History is a record of things that happened in the past. Now there are two divisions of history in the Bible. One that happens in the first part of the Bible, that's called the Old Testament. And then there's the part that happens in the second part of the Bible, that's called the New Testament. Now, the history section of the Old Testament has 12 different books in it. Remember last time we talked about God's library, we talked about the Bible, how the Bible is one book, but then it has 66 different books, all in that one book. So the Bible is its own library. 12 books in the Old Testament are called the history books. Now those books tell the story of the nation of Israel from the time that they entered into the land that God promised them all the way up until the time where they were forced out of their own country. Now the nation of Israel, they were made up of descendants of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. What's a descendant? Do you know what a descendant is? A descendant is children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, great-great-great-grandchildren, and so forth. So what that means is, I'm Mr. Bowberry Biscuit, and I have 3 children. I have 2 sons and a daughter. So my sons and my daughter, they're my descendants because they came from me. And so if my children had children, guess what? Their children would be my descendants too. So that's how it is in the Bible. So remember, we had Abraham, he was the father, then his son, Isaac, and then Isaac had a son named Jacob. So those are descendants. So remember, the nation of Israel were made up of all descendants. Now, as we take a praise break, we'll talk more about the history section of the Bible. All right? So let's go have some fun with the praise break, and we'll be right back with you.
Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, and Job, Psalms and Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, and Hosea, Joel and Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. Books of the Bible, the wonderful books of the Bible. These are the books of the Bible, the wonderful books of the Bible. It's a letter from God that sets everyone free, a gift for you, for me. These are the books of the Bible, the wonderful books of the Bible. Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1st and 2nd Samuel, 1st and 2nd Kings, 1st and 2nd Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther, and Job, Psalms and Proverbs, Ecclesiastes, Song of Solomon, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Lamentations, Ezekiel, Daniel, and Hosea, Joel and Amos, Obadiah, Jonah, Micah, Nahum, Habakkuk, Zephaniah, Haggai, Zechariah, Malachi. Books of the wonderful books of the Bible. It's a letter from God that sets everyone free. A gift for you, for me. These are the books of the Bible. The wonderful books of the Bible. These are the books of the Bible. The wonderful books of the Bible. These are the books of the Bible. The wonderful books of the Bible. These are the books of the Bible. The wonderful books of the Bible.
What's up, guys? It's DJ Dr. Danish here. So, we're going to talk about the second division of the Bible today called history. History has 12 books. Can you count to 12? I can. Well, let's see if I can. All right, so here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Good job. Now, the names of the books of the Bible that make up the history division are Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. Can you say those with me again? Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther.
Now the memory verse comes out of Psalms 68, verse 11. The Lord gave the word. Great was the company of those who proclaimed it. The Lord gave the word. Great was the company of those who proclaimed it.
The Lord gave the word.
Great was the company of those who proclaimed it.
The Lord gave the word.
Great was the company of those who proclaimed it.
The Lord gave the word.
Great was the company of those who proclaimed it. Good job, you guys.
The third book in the history section is Ruth. Did you know that Ruth was named after a woman? As a matter of fact, there are only 2 books in all of God's library that are named after women. Now, one of those books is the book of Ruth, but the other one is the book of Esther. So guess what that means about those 2 women? They had to be really special, don't you think? Yeah, me too. Well, let's talk a little bit more about what made Ruth so special.
Oh, hey, Mommy, what you reading?
Hey, Naomi, I'm reading a story from the Bible about Ruth and Naomi. Would you like to hear it?
Ooh, sure.
Okay. Ruth was from a country called Moab. She married a man from the nation of Israel. Ruth's husband's family moved to Moab because there was not enough food for their country, Israel. Ruth's mother-in-law's name was Naomi. When a woman marries a man, that man's mother becomes her mother-in-law. Can you think of any mother-in-laws that you know of?
You?
No.
Oh. Grandma?
Grandma Mary. Yep, that's right. Ruth's father-in-law's name was Elimelech. When a woman marries a man, that man's father becomes her father-in-law. Can you think of any father-in-laws that you know of?
Grandpa?
Grandpa, Papa C. Yeah, that's right. Well, Ruth's father-in-law died and her husband died. Ruth's mother-in-law, Naomi, had 2 sons. Naomi had no other children. Naomi's husband died, and then her 2 sons died, so she was left with only her 2 daughters-in-law. Ruth was one, and the other woman was named Orpah. Naomi was very sad. Then she heard that her people in her country had plenty of food again, so she decided to go back to her home. The town she came from was called Bethlehem. Naomi started going to her own country with her 2 daughters-in-law, but then she thought it might be best for them to stay in Moab, which was their own country. Orpah decided to stay in Moab, but Ruth refused. Entreat me not to leave you or to turn back from following after you. For wherever you go, I will go, and wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die, and there will I be buried. The Lord do so to me, and more also, if anything but death parts you and me. When she saw that she was determined to go with her, she stopped speaking to her. So Ruth went with her mother-in-law, Naomi, to Bethlehem. Ruth was a great blessing to Naomi. She worked hard to take care of her mother-in-law, making sure Naomi had what she needed. Then one day, Ruth met a rich man named Boaz, who fell in love with her and married her. Boaz thought Ruth was special because of how kind Ruth was to her mother-in-law, Naomi. Ruth and Boaz had a son named Obed. Obed was the grandfather of a king named David. David was a very famous king. So Ruth was the great-grandmother of a famous king. It all happened because Ruth was so unselfish that she left her own country to take care of her husband's mother. Also, Ruth chose to serve Naomi's God. Naomi's God is the same God we serve today. He's the one that made the world that we live in. The end.
Wow, great story, Mom.
Awesome story, huh?
You know, we've been talking about God's library today. And earlier, I showed you my library. So you saw all the books that I have? Well, guess what? God's library is called the Bible. Yep. So just like I have all these books in my library, God has 66 books, all in this one book called the Bible. Man, if I was going to read this whole Bible, it would take me a long time, wouldn't it? I mean, that's a lot of pages and a lot of words. So what you should do, we should read some of the Bible every single day, just a little bit every single day. Why? Because this book tells us how to live. It tells us how to treat other people. It tells us how to live a long life. It tells us how to stay healthy. It tells us everything that we need in order to live on this earth. So God's library is very important. Remember, God's library, the Bible, is something that we need to read, that we need to study every single day. All right, you got it? Cool.
We've learned so much about God's library and all of the books that it has. It has 66 books in all, and we've learned 17 so far. You're like, 17? I've only learned 12 today. That's right, but this is the second division of the Bible. The first one was law, and if you haven't seen that video, you need to go check that one out right after this. You need to go see it because that's the first one. You gotta learn the first 5 books of the Bible. So, we've learned 5 in the first video, 12 in this video, so that's a total of 17. 5 plus 12 is 17. So, what 17 books of the Bible have we learned so far? Let's go over it. So, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Joshua, Judges, Ruth, 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel, 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, Ezra, Nehemiah, Esther. Those are the first 17 books of the Bible that we have learned from God's library. So check out those books. Thank you for joining us today. Had an awesome time with all of you guys. Make sure you join us next time so that we can learn about the third division of the Bible, which is special to me because, don't tell anybody, but my name is DJ Dr. Danish, but my mama gave me the name David. And David's very important in the next division of the Bible, which is poetry, because he wrote a lot of the Psalms. Psalms? What is that? We'll learn next time.